Okay, we're going to do some current events, and got two big issues, Trump and pagers. So we're going to talk about both of those things, right? Let's start with Israel and what's going on. And this is, I hate to say it, but it is kind of funny what Israel's able to do. It's the capabilities of Israel is really being on display. Of course, if you've been following the news, unless you've been under a rock, unless you've been in a Reformation church like we just talked about, they don't pay attention to these things. These pagers go off in these pockets of these Hezbollah operatives, okay? So these pagers how it got to this state is Nasrallah comes out and tells Hezbollah, hey, look, the Israelis are using your phones, and they're tracking you, they're listening to you. We all got to get rid of our phones, and we're going to go to pagers. So we're going to distribute all these pagers to you guys. Put your phones in a lockbox, and Israel won't be hacking us and following our footsteps. So they passed out all these pagers. So these pagers were not passed out to civilians in Lebanon. They were passed on to Hezbollah operatives. Okay, did some kids get killed? Yes, of course. And in war, there are casualties, and we have to understand that. But I want you to understand this is how precise Israel can be when they fight a war. That they can target the operatives with a pager. Now, of course, everybody denies everything. The guy who makes the pagers, he's like, I don't even know what's going on. I don't know what happened. But obviously, in the transportation of these, where they got them, there was, I don't know how many grams of explosive was put in the pagers. I can't remember what I read. But it's enough to kill a few people and do a lot of damage. Now, there was a whole thing behind this, and I want to flush that out, but these devices, again, like I said, were not for the general public, but what it does, it shows you, like this article at JNS said, it shows you that the rules of targeting are principally necessity, distinction, and proportionality. So when the ICC or the UN says Israel's not being proportional, this is about as proportional as you can get, okay? It targeted every Hezbollah operative, okay? And so there's no international laws that were violated by doing this. These are known terrorists. Okay, so they didn't go after civilians. You can't get more precise than this. Okay, now here's the history of what's going on up there in the north. Is since October 8th of last year. Okay, after October 7th happened, October 8th, Hezbollah and all these terror-based started firing rockets from the north. And they've been doing this on nearly a daily basis, okay? So what Israel has suffered is 26 civilians, 20 IDF soldiers. Hezbollah has named more than 450 members killed by Israel during ongoing skirmishes, mostly in Lebanon, but it's also in Syria. Another 79 operatives from the other terror group, a Lebanese soldier, and a dozen civilians have also been killed. So it's just been ongoing. And there's an inevitable war that's getting ready to happen. And like I said, Nasrallah, he told them to stop using their cell phones and go to these pagers. Well, apparently Israel intelligence picked up on this, and Israel's very, very smart and sophisticated. So this is the pager that these guys got, and I think I have some videos of the pagers going off. I'll explain to you why the pagers went off all at the same time, okay? So as an example, here, this guy that has the pager, that's not a civilian, it's a Hezbollah operative. So the thing in a sniper, they're looking around, but it was the guy's pager blew up on him. And we don't know if he's dead or not, but I mean, that's what was happening all over the north in Lebanon. to these Hezbollah operatives. Here's another one. It's the guy in the yellow. If you can see that on the left-hand side, watch this. Here's another one. You want to keep looking to the right, and these are, again, Hezbollah operatives, not civilians. So anyway, 14 killed, 450 wounded as Lebanon hit twice. So it happened on Tuesday, and then it happened today, earlier today, their time. And the second time, the second wave was like walkie-talkies that blew up. So it wasn't just, so Tuesday was pagers, today was these walkie-talkies that exploded in these people's hands. Some solar energy systems also detonated as well. And again, this is from Times of Israel. It looks like fresh wave of explosive ripped across Lebanon, appearing mainly targeted handheld radios. Spontaneously exploded in a coordinated attack widely blamed on Israel after months of cross-border fire. And so here are some of these walkie-talkies that were blown up. And these people had them in their pockets or whatever, and they blew, and they had explosives in them. Some of the cars that were in caught on fire. The explosive was so much. You can see the building on the top right started on fire. Then there's like a cell phone place that blew up because of having the walkie-talkies in there. So this is going all through Lebanon, okay, with all of this going on. Let's see if this is a video. I think it is, yeah. Yeah. So they're all happening simultaneously over there. So what's happening here is what we call psychological warfare. And Israel's playing it back to them. Now, look, there's been a lot of psychological warfare that's been played on Israel. And unfortunately, Israel hasn't been winning the psychological warfare game very well. You saw that with the 6 hostages that were killed. And what they did to the 6 hostages and televised, well, they filmed it and everything. And so terror is meant to terrorize. Obviously, that's a psychological operative. And so Israel did their own kind of psychological warfare. But again, you have to understand the difference. Israel targeted Hezbollah operatives, not civilians. Hezbollah and Hamas target civilians. That's the difference, okay? You got to know the real difference. So when you see these things going off, it's because of Nasrallah that gave the operatives this, okay? So this is a different ball game. It is psychological warfare. It's just like the psychological warfare, and when they killed one of the Hamas leaders in Tehran, and they blew him up in the bed that he slept in, right? And the message was, we can target wherever you're at, so you can't hide. And so the psychological message that was sent to Hezbollah was, look, we can individually target you. If you want to keep this up, then okay, you're going to get into the crosshairs. Israel is trying to do this to make sure that this doesn't go crazy. They're trying to get ahead of this. But what was happening here, and let me get to the UN general thing in just a second. Here's what the Times of Israel said, though. The Israel intelligence services originally wanted to detonate the pagers as an opening blow in an all-out war against Hezbollah. So we have a sneak peek that Israel was going to attack them. Okay, so what happened? Well, what happened was they chose to act and detonate them all this week because apparently someone got wind and they were going to expose this. And so instead of going through with an act of war and attacking them, they just started just to detonate it and just leave it at that because their cover was blown. Apparently, the Mossad injected a board inside the device that had explosive material that receives a code. And so what we're looking at with Israel is they were ready to attack. And this is what was going to be part of the attack was they're going to detonate this all off to cause confusion and blow a few of these guys up as they attacked. So we almost just saw an attack from Israel to Hezbollah. So that should tell every one of us, when we talk about Israel and like, hey, look, you think they're going to attack at some point? Yes, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And they came a hair's breadth away from attacking Hezbollah and going into a full war. They almost went into a full war, but the cover got blown. So they just decided, well, we're just going to detonate them and then just leave it at that. We're not going to attack now because that blew our cover. We were going to use that to cause confusion. That tells you how close we are to a war developing over there on a grand scale. That's what you all have to understand. If they went and full-on attacked Hezbollah and with the intent of destroying Hezbollah completely, like this seems to be indicating, that means you're going to get Iran involved. That means you're going to get Russia involved. That means the United States is going to get pulled in some form or fashion, somehow. And so you've got the potential of World War III happening with this going on. Now, again, you and I both know that Israel's going to have to do something. And apparently they were. So it's not a question of if, it's when. And I think, like I've always said to you guys, there's a small window right now. And Israel's watching our elections. They know if Trump gets in there, then it's tater chip, let her rip. They'll go for it. But they also know if Kamala gets in there, that's a whole different ballgame. And they may, if these guys cheat their way in like they did before, which they plan, or maybe assassinate Trump, again, then Israel will lose that window. So you have to look at it from Israel's standpoint. They're in a window, and they may not want to risk a cheated election and getting Kamala in there because Kamala hates Israel. So does the Biden administration. So does every hack around those creeps. And they definitely are not going to support Israel in an attack. Israel would be on its own at that point in time. And the problem is Israel needs weaponry from the United States if they're going to attack. So the optimum time is now. And apparently they were going to do it, but the cover got blown. So that's how close you are. That's how close you are. That almost went down. So that's what the pagers and all these walkie-talkies going off and stuff, that was a preemptive thing, and they said, just detonate them all now. Our cover's blown. We're not going to attack. Whoa. At the same time, the UN General Assembly demands Israel pull out from the Palestinian areas. Again, there's no such thing as a Palestinian. There's no such thing as a Palestinian. There's no such thing as a Palestinian area in 12 months. So United Nations General Assembly, with more than 40 countries, adopted a resolution today demanding that Israel entirely pull out of so-called, they use the word occupied Palestinian territory. There's no such thing as that. They don't occupy anything. It's their land. So basically, what do they want them to do? They want them to pull out of Gaza. They want them to pull out of Judea and Samaria. And they want them to pull out of Jerusalem, the old city. Oh, really? The old city? Really? If you've ever been to the old city, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's where the Western Wall is. That's the access to the Temple Mount. You want them to pull out of the old city. They got the old city back in 1967. And of course, Judea and Samaria, they allow the Palestinians to live there, but that's still under their jurisdiction, and so is the Gaza. That belongs to them. They shouldn't have given it over in 2005. But now they're saying, no, we want you out of all these areas. I'm sorry, Israel's not going to do that. So what you have now is international pressure being put on Israel. Look at the vote, 124-14. When Zechariah chapter 12 says all nations will come against you, you're watching that develop in front of you. That's not the fulfillment of it, but it's the development of it. And so all nations are coming against her, saying she's occupying the land and this and that. Okay, if that's happening at the same time on the international front, what do you think is happening with the Kamala Biden campaign? Let me ask you this. Do you think they're for the UN or for Israel? You already know the answer. You already know the answer, so you know this how this goes. So let me ask you this. Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu knows this too? Of course he does. He knows, and so he knows he's going to have to do something and pull the trigger at some point in time. And again, we don't know when that is, but we'll see. Okay,